Good morning, and this is Devotions from St. Paul Evangelical Lutheran Church in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. So this is from the 6th chapter of Matthew. Beware of practicing your piety before others in order to be seen by them, for then you have no reward from your Father in heaven. So whenever you give alms, do not sound the trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they may be praised by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward. But when you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your alms may be done in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And whenever you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, so that they may be seen by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward. But whenever you pray, go into your room and shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And whenever you fast, do not look dismal like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, so as to show others that they are fasting. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that your fasting may be seen not by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasures are, there your heart will be also. It's important for me to note that this passage does not say, don't do any of these things. It says more to me, do all these things for the right reason. Now to me, that means that it plays into the tension in our lives to figure out why we do the things that we do in the Lord's name. You know, there's other places in the Bible where we're told to go and make disciples of all nations, specifically given to the disciples of Jesus right before he left them. And yet here it says, do all these praise options in secret. So for me, it isn't don't do them, it is be careful how you do them, be careful why you do them. There's a tension. We need to be active for the Lord. We need to make sure it is for the Lord and not for ourselves. And that's the tension. I don't know about you, but when I do something, I like to be recognized. And yet it isn't about me. It shouldn't be about me. And if it is about me, it isn't very useful. It isn't very powerful. But if it's about Christ and holding Christ up and being in favor of Christ and making him number one, then it's useful. Now, I mentioned earlier that the section between the two parts I read included Jesus giving the disciples the Lord's Prayer. So Jesus wants us to pray. Jesus wants us to pray fervently. But we often don't know exactly how or what to pray. And the Lord's Prayer gives us a good template. But think about when we use the Lord's Prayer. And if you're like me, most of the time that you say the Lord's Prayer, it's in corporate worship. We do it together. It focuses on God, It focuses on the things that we get from God and the things that we are to worship God for. And it asks assistance to do that. But we have to think about that, because the problem with corporate prayer is we tend to say it without thinking, without feeling, without understanding it, what it is we're actually talking about. At least that tends to be something that I do. Put all this together and it comes right back to the theme that I've tried to talk about every week that I come here, and that is everything we do should try to be something that fosters our relationship with Jesus Christ, that puts Him at the center of our being, that puts Him at the center of our lives, that says we need to strengthen this relationship every day. And most of every day we spend by ourselves. Whether we're in a crowd or not, we're by ourselves with Christ. And that's the time to worship Christ, the time to pray to Christ, the time to listen to Christ and be open to the messages that He is sending us by whatever means. That's a difficult thing to do, to keep that focus. But if we keep that focus, then we are fostering our relationship. We are doing all the things that we are encouraged to do in this passage from Matthew. And we are putting Christ first. To my way of thinking, that is what we're supposed to be about, what we should try to be about. And that is what relieves the tension of doing without being the object of the doing. It's all about relationship with Jesus.